Hello and welcome to another episode of View from the Tilton Road, a new Birmingham City podcast airing every week. I'm Kieran, your host for this episode. Joining me this week, I've got Elliot and also our special guest who we're going to be speaking to today, Paul Robinson. Paul, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us.
No worries, Kieran. I'm all good. Thank you very much.
Good. We'll get straight into it. We want to speak to you first of all about your new venture that you started up a couple of weeks back, Sports Mindset. Just wondering, first of all, you could give us a bit of an insight into that and what made you start that up.
Yeah, so basically, it's my journey basically. So the website itself is designed around my experiences, what I went through growing up as a kid, what I how I obviously went through my career, the ups, the downs, the negatives, the positives, the difficulties sometimes that I know that a lot of sports people go through, because it's not just for football, it's for all sports. So yeah, I obviously was thinking about it when the first lockdown started. I just started getting ideas together. I started writing stuff down, putting stuff together on the computer. And it's something that I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to sort of go down that route of the mentoring type, helping people, trying to obviously be that bounce board for certain people that have gone through a tough time, no matter it be on the pitch or off the pitch. It's just, for me, it was something that I felt that I could pass my experiences on to people, and help them get over them obstacles like I had to get over.
And obviously, in terms of that, could you just kind of go into detail, how important is the mental side of it when going through a career in football, really? Obviously plays a vital part.
Yeah, I mean, all sports are mentally draining. The pressure, the amount of time and effort that you put in, the structure that you have to work to, the travelling. Not a lot of people see that, and the effect that it takes on your body, your mind as well. With you constantly knowing that you're in that program. You're programming your body to constantly do it day in, day out. Yes, you'll get your odd days off every now and then, or a little break because of international break, but it's intense, and it can grind you down. So yeah, on a mindset, that's why I called it a mindset, is because I felt that I was mentally strong with everything that was thrown at me. And I feel it's vital to passing it on, and people will go through it, but sometimes they're afraid to come out and talk about it. And that's what it's about. It's about coming out, opening yourself up, and being free and expressing yourselves. And what we've also got to look at is we've not got to look at what sport they're in, because it's a sport. At the end of the day, it's the human being. You are a human being. It's understanding the person, respecting them with how they come across and what they need help with, and speaking to them on a professional level of connecting with just that person, not the sport that they play in.
Yes, I was going to say, yeah, because obviously any pathway to elite sport is quite an intense pathway, isn't it, from an early age? And for a lot of people, obviously, unless you're very fortunate to come into sport, I don't know, these days probably late coming into sport is 12 years old or 13 years old, but these days kids are they're sacrificing a lot of things a lot earlier, aren't they? And it can sort of mount up, can't it?
Definitely.
Especially on young shoulders.
Oh, 100%. And that's the biggest thing for me, is that when I was a kid, I never had as much as what they had. Obviously, I had to earn the right, because I was not from a big up background of my family giving me everything, because that was never the case. I had to earn everything that was given to me. These kids nowadays, they're coming into a different world where they're reading so many days, and they're having so many educational lessons as well in sport. It's just it brainwashes you. It drains the life out of you. And when I see it, I think, oh yeah, great, you got to do this, you got to do that. But your main focus is, I want to be that sports person. That's my dedication. If I wanted to do my education, I'd done that at school between the ages of when I should have done it. But what people don't realise is that you learn as you develop, as you go through life. You pick up different bits and pieces of education anyway. So you're always evolving as a person and as a human being. So that period of your life shouldn't be dictated to how it should be and how brainwashed you should become. You should be able to have fun. You should be able to enjoy it, but you should also be able to concentrate on the sport that you're wanting to focus on, and making sure that you're 100% dedicated to achieving good things.
No.
But I also want to highlight, fellas, that I'm not a sports psychologist. I know people out there, they have a degree, and they're qualified to do the talks to people that they want to talk to. You've got mental health people that, again, I'm not qualified to talk with regards to mental health. But if I see someone that's struggling with that, then I would recommend them to the people that I know that can help them, because they're qualified to do it. I'm someone who's lived and breathed it. I've lived on the edge. So I've teetered with so many difficulties and so many things going through your head that you don't want to be thinking about. And it's just that it's that, like you say, it's invaluable, the experience that I can pass on to people.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from, because I mean, many years ago I was a professional tennis coach, and I've got a sports science background myself, and there was a lot of, I mean, these kids weren't going to school; they were full time at the academy, and all they did, like you say, is live and breathe sport. And I think their parents were investing a huge amounts of money in their tuition and their coaching. And I felt at the time that there wasn't a lot of emphasis on the psychological side, the mental well-being of the players, 14, 15, 16-year-olds. And I felt, quite a few of them, I just didn't feel that mentally they were capable of making it to the level that they were expected.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a big thing. Again, the biggest thing is for me as well is parents. Parents have got to understand is that you can't put pressure on your kid. You've got to let your kid develop and enjoy the sport as much as they can. That kid doesn't constantly want you shouting and honouring at him or her throughout their time as like they're growing up, because the kid will turn around and go, do you know what? I'm bored with it now. I've had enough. You keep shouting at me. You're very negative. Do you know what I mean? The parents, they just need to be that protective netting when the times are right. So, okay, you maybe didn't have that much of a good game, or you didn't play to the standards that you could have, but that's fine. Everyone does that. No one's going to play to their best abilities 100%. So it's picking and choosing the right times of when to support and when to be that loving parent.
Yeah. I think the other thing is as well is us as fans and people when we was in the ground and when we were allowed back in, and yeah, we've all been guilty of it at some stage. A player makes a mistake and fans get on their back. But prime example for us, probably David Cottrell, who's now opened up about how he struggled at Birmingham. But you would never have noticed that on the pitch. And I think maybe sometimes fans have kind of got to be more understanding. You never look at a player and think that they're going to be struggling. You just see them as this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but that's because players are afraid to come out because they see it as a weakness. If they come out and speak about it, then someone will be like, "Oh, you're no good for me. Like, how can I rely on you?" When, hold on a minute, that's where you support and you protect that person and that player. And the most important thing is that you're getting their mental health right and you're showing them support. He was a Birmingham City player and he felt himself that he couldn't come out and say that he was struggling. Whereas if he had, Gary Rowett was the manager at the time, 100% Gary would have backed him and supported him, 100%, because that's the type of guy Gary is. But David obviously felt what was going on in football with obviously like the homophobic stuff as well. People were afraid to come out and say that they're gay, openly gay, and that it's just the world we live in, and it's scary. It shouldn't be like that. Everyone should be open and should be free to talk about whatever they can be, knowing that they've got that support and protection from the clubs that they're playing for, or in any sport, that they get that protection from their coaches.
Yeah, it's getting better though.
Much better. No, definitely much better. And I think it's great that players are now and sports people are now speaking out about it much more. And it's finally realising it that like we're hitting the nail on the head with it's okay to not be okay. And that's the great thing about it, is to open up and talk about these situations that we're going through.
Yeah.
I always certainly feel, and not just with obviously the sports mindset of things, but also with racism, for example, and homophobia in football. I think, especially over the past 12 to 18 months, the media, the effort the media have put into it as well, in trying to emphasise this to the people on Twitter where all the racist abuse happens, on Facebook and whatever. I think that's been a lot better as well. When you look back over the past couple of years, you never really seen much in the media, but whereas now it's really snowballed, especially with the players taking the knee and what have you as well. I think it's really started to hammer it home to people who watch these athletes on a daily basis almost.
Yeah, people are making a stance, and that's what it's about. It's people sticking together, making a point, and staying firm until these things are changed. And like you say, social media is the biggest problem, 100%, because there's keyboard warriors out there. There's trolls who want to get in your head. They want to make you feel uncomfortable. They want to abuse you behind like a screen. It's just it gets embarrassing, and that's where I love it. I honestly can tell you I love it. I love the fact is them people can hide behind the phone, but deep down, are they really like that as a human being themselves? If them people had a real good look at themselves, and were they the type of people that you could sit down and probably have a real good chat with and educate them, like sit there and just educate them in their vocabulary, the way they explain themselves, their aggression. But why is that aggression? Why are people venting aggression on social media? It's because there's so many things in the world now that kids react to or people react to that we can't control, unfortunately. But you got like computer games for me as well. Computer games do my head in. The games that come out now for kids. I know we used to play some of the we never had the games that were really violent when we were growing up. But now it's all like violence. Most of the games that come out are to do with violence. And when kids are playing that in lockdowns and they're in front of a screen all the time, it mentally gets into your head. So they feel that they're watching their team then at night or in the afternoon because they've been playing this game, and their instant reaction would be, oh, he's crap. Do you know what I mean? It's like he's made a mistake. I'm going to abuse him now on social media. But deep down, if he was maybe not playing that game, would he react differently?
I think, like you say, I think. Sorry, Kieran. You go.
No, go on, mate.
No, I was just going to make a comment, just a throwaway comment, really. Just to say, like, it's all too easy these days, isn't it? Just to pick your phone up and just, verbally abuse someone. You know what I mean? And this is unfortunately the society that we're living in at this current time. And yeah, it's a shame, really. It's a shame.
Yeah, and I've done it. I'm not going to lie to you, fellas. I've done it a few times, just because of I'm sick and tired of like the people throwing rubbish at me. So yeah, deep down I regret what I'd have replied to someone, but it's just that emotion. It's the emotional. You're constantly like giving me grief. I accept it. You have your opinion, fair enough. But actually, do you know what? It gets personal. It starts getting personal. So I am going to have a little bite back.
Don't take this the wrong way, but when you started your career, are you glad that this sort of social media wasn't about? I'm not trying to say you started your career a while ago, but
no. Like again, there was nothing. There was no mobile phones that had like the cameras where you could record people just enjoying themselves. Again, it's a massive thing for celebrities. And don't get me wrong, there are professionals out there who need to have a good look at themselves and understand what their roles and responsibilities are, because they shoot themselves in the foot with what they do. So them professionals do have to have a good look at themselves and realise what they're doing, and they're encouraging it. They're encouraging the abuse. They're encouraging the social media that they need. But there was no camera phones when we were growing up, where you were out on the night out, just enjoying yourself like everyone else does. But yet now you've got people filming you, like, just, do you know what I mean? The media can turn it into a massive circus that doesn't need to be a circus.
Yeah,
that's the way it's become. So yeah, I was buzzing growing up. I had no real. But then again, I had people around me who would go over to that person and take the phone off them and say, "What are you doing?" I had people that looked after me. But now we don't. There's like these professionals have the right people around them where they know that they're looking after them at their best interests, and not just money grubbing.
Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about now. Do you ask a quick question then? Just do you feel like your mindset has helped you throughout your career? Because obviously you've captained clubs. I think you've got to have a certain character, haven't you? But I know I do believe that leaders are created, in my opinion. I think you have to have certain innate characteristics, but I think you can be built up into a captain or a leader, so to speak. Do you feel like your mindset's helped you over your career?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when I was growing up, obviously I had the great man Graham Taylor. He was my mentor. He was my manager. So he was a guy who'd experienced so much abuse through being the England manager. So he could relate to his players of how to act on and off the pitch that they didn't create that problem for you. So he was great for me. Like, always kept me grounded when I put my foot out of line. Kenny Jackett, Luca Blissett, Tom Wally. So I had good people around me who'd always put their foot down with me and tell me what was right and what was wrong. So yeah, I think that grounding obviously then made me more determined and more passionate about what I wanted to do and how much I wanted to achieve being a good player and believing in myself in how high I could get and play at the highest level. But you've got to have the right mindset. If your mindset's not set on, if your mindset's just more obsessed with cars, money, then you're not going to get anywhere, because you've got to have dedication, you've got to have commitment, you've got to have the right tools to push your body to the limit of knowing that you've got to be a top player and you've got to achieve them goals as much as you can.
I think you see some players, especially over the past, from probably 10, 15 years, I've been following football religiously. You see some players that, they let the hype around their name get to them, and they kind of fizzle off into nothing really. And I suppose that's where you being able to sit down and speak to these younger players could kind of help them keep grounded and keep on the path that they're going on, rather than kind of losing themselves in this feeding frenzy around them, really.
Yeah. But that was my role when I was still playing. So when I was playing, I understood what academies meant and what it was all about, because I come through one. So I knew that these young kids I needed to be seen. I needed to be there watching their training sessions. I needed to be there giving them like bits of advice every now and then. So that was my job as a captain on the pitch. I had to be a captain off the pitch as well. So I had to lead by example through all the club and instill that in people. So that was what I loved doing, though. But that was because I was brought up. I had people like that who encouraged it around me. So it made me feel like that's what I want to do, and that's how I want to do it. I didn't care about what other people thought. That was just me with my roles and how I felt I could improve people. So when I went into the coaching, obviously the 23s and the 18s jobs they were difficult because of the kids you were working with, but I absolutely loved it. I loved like laughing and joking with them, but also being serious with them, understanding that this is what you got to do, lads. Doesn't matter. You're going to make mistakes, but you can't let the mistakes affect you on the football pitch, because you'll go missing and you'll keep making more mistakes. And then you'll make yourself look bad because it's the simple little things that they've let get in your head, when really it shouldn't be. You should just be believing in your own qualities and own ability in what you've got.
I know we just touched on a few names, but who would you say has had the biggest impact on you throughout your career, really, or through your career?
So obviously the Kenny Jacketts, the Graham Taylors. I mean, Kenny was my youth team manager. I still speak to him every now and then. He's the Portsmouth manager now. So yeah, I catch up with him as much as I can, just to see how him and his family are, and just talk as normal human beings, and no pressures of football or things like that. Just normal chats. So that's great for me. Obviously the players that I played with before, just to obviously go back on good memories and laugh and joke, but also see how they're doing with their families going through these difficult times. So yeah, it's always nice to speak to loads of different people. I mean, yeah, I made loads of friends over the years, but I also made loads of enemies. But that's part and parcel of the game. That's part and parcel of football, unfortunately, and all sports. But there was no malices in anything. It was just the sport that we played in, that we all wanted to be winners, and we all wanted to win those games. So yeah, I'm sure when our path crosses later on in life with other people that I've played against, then it'll be like old times where we used to play against each other and have laughs and jokes and just chat about things. So yeah, I mean, I just like being a people's person and enjoy people's company and talking to them, see how they are.
I mean, touching on, like you say, you came up through Kenny Jackett being your youth team manager and what have you. Obviously, what's going on at Birmingham at the minute in terms of potentially the restructuring of the youth system and going to more of a B team rather than the under 23s and the academies. What's your take on that? Do you think that could harm the progress of the youngsters we've got now, or do you think it's the right thing to do for the club?
Well, you just want honesty, don't you? I mean, the club itself just wants honesty. So if the 9s to 16s program's going to shut, then you're losing out on so much quality, so many kids who represent Birmingham City. Birmingham City fans watch the first team, love playing for the football club. How are you going to tell all these kids and these parents that the academy is going to shut down? They're going to be heartbroken. It's such a shame. Obviously, the 23s football for me, 18s football obviously is part of the academy, so that's different. That still comes under that bracket of the academy football. But when you get to 23s, you need to be linked with the first team. So when you're 23s and first team, that's your bubble. So that's where now you're looking at the best quality in the 23s to come into the first team. But the unfortunate thing for 23s football is you hardly play against any senior professional football players. So you might get the odd game where you're playing against a senior pro who's maybe missed a few games out injured or is not in favour with the manager, but the manager wants him to play in a game. Then kids are only getting that experience every now and then. Whereas when I was growing up, we played against, so when I played, it was reserve team football. So I played against men at the age of 16 and 17 at that age. And that instilled toughness in me straight away, because I knew what I was going into. I knew that I was going to get bullied. I knew that I was going to get a different challenge every week playing against these men. And unfortunately, these boys don't get that. They don't get that experience unless they go out alone. But the players are not going, some of the young lads are not even going out alone. Such a shame. They're wasted their talent, wasted their opportunities to go out and experience men's football, and that's what you should be doing. So yeah, I mean, I'm devastated. I am devastated that with what will ever happen, because again, you're letting down so many kids who are important to Birmingham City Football Club and the future of Birmingham City Football Club. We want to see kids coming through the academy and getting into the first team, like a Jude. Everyone wants to see that. We don't just want to see 1 or 2, 3 or 4 every 5 or 6 years. We want to be seeing them. We want to see these kids coming through every 1, 2 years max. That's what we need. That's what the club needs. Birmingham City Football Club, lads. Everyone talks about Birmingham City Football Club. No matter where you go, everyone talks about the fans. Everyone talks about the atmosphere. Everyone talks about what a great club it is. At the moment, it's not a great club because they're always down the bottom of the Football League, and they shouldn't be. They're a sleeping. In my eyes, I'll always call it a great club because that's what I signed up for. When I was first asked to go and train with Birmingham City under Lee Clark. For me, it was a great club. The club meant a lot to me because I was signing for a great club. Do we see players now? Are we attracting players now that think Birmingham City is a great club? Or are we seeing players that are just on it for a little jolly? Do they understand what it takes or what it means to play for Birmingham City Football Club? No, I don't. I don't think they do, and that's the disappointing thing about it. I reckon you've got more players in the academy that will want to prove a point and put themselves out there, even though they might make mistakes. They'd give more playing for Birmingham City Football Club because they know how much more it means to them.
I think, Paul, I mean, we all agree with you, mate, and I think us as the supporters, I think we're all unified in the thought that there's no way we can get rid of the young ages, the academy. You know, that's what we want. We want local young kids coming through, playing for the club that they support. I think a few weeks ago, Neil Warnock touched on the point you made as well with regards to the under-23s football. These players are just not physically or mentally prepared for first-team championship football, and they're playing essentially friendly matches behind closed doors all the time, and they're not geared up for it. And I think the B team method is a step in the right direction, but if it is at the expense of the young kids in the academy, the early ages, it'll be an absolute disaster.
Yeah, it will be. But again, it's money, isn't it? Now it's the running, it's the consistent like supplying. There's so many funds that you need to pay to keep this stuff running. Has the club got them funds? Obviously not. If they're thinking of shutting it down, then they obviously haven't got the funds. And that's the worst thing about it is that these poor kids are going to suffer. They're the ones that are going to be let down at the end of the day. No one else. Not the club, not the people that work at the club. It's these poor kids that you've got to look in the face, or the parents have got to tell these kids that unfortunately, look, your opportunity at Birmingham City now is finished because you've got to go somewhere else because they're shutting down.
I mean, as far as I know, the club aren't going to be in the academy. Hopefully, fingers crossed. They're just going to hopefully reshuffle the under-23s and the under-18s, which I think it makes sense to a degree because we're not seeing enough of them come through into the first team, like you say, and that's what we want. We want players that are coming. We don't want to have to be consistently buying 10 or 11 players every summer. It's no good. They can't bed in, and we're going to end up at the bottom of the league all the time. So we do need these players coming through. They know the system. They know the manager, like you say, and they're on the training pitch. They just come in and they slot in.
Yeah, but then again though, that's the problem. You've got a manager in Karanka who's he's a fantastic manager. He's a name. He's not going to bring any youth through. You need a manager that believes in the youth, someone who's going to give them the opportunity. That's what the club needs. The club needs someone that is prepared to put themselves on the line and give these kids an opportunity and take the brunt when it comes to them. But explain it. Come out and explain it. Explain what's going to happen so the fans understand. So if the fans know that there's going to be kids bedded in this year, then the fans would, do you know what? They would accept that because you've been explained it. We've got hardly any money. We're not going to bring any players in this year. We might bring the odd 2 or 3 inexperienced players, but we're going to bring the kids through. Then as fans, you'll be like, do you know what? Wow. At least you've told us what the plan is, what the structure is. We know now in our heads by thinking, right, okay, let's just see how this goes. It might struggle, but we were told what was going to happen, so we know.
That's the problem. I don't think there is no plan, is there?
It's interesting to touch back on something you said just as well earlier. That's about the youngsters might make the odd mistake, but obviously at least they're going to be giving 100% when they're out there on that pitch. And I mean, you look at, even the likes of Harley Dean and whoever we've got in there at the minute are all making mistakes anyway. So what harm could it do in getting these youngsters out there and putting their all in? Because what the fans want to see, like you say, most at the minute is 11 players out on that pitch who are going to give 110% out there. Because what seems to be lacking for us at the minute compared to other sides is maybe that fight when it comes to it. Who's got that little bit extra?
Yeah, but when you look at it, everyone makes mistakes. Senior pros make mistakes. It's part and parcel of the game. It's a high pressured game. Everyone's watching you. As soon as you go on that pitch, everyone's expecting you to not make a mistake. Everyone's expecting you to play your best game, and it's not possible. Players go through periods of lacking confidence. They're going to make mistakes. Harley Dean, like you've mentioned there, makes mistakes because he's lacking confidence. But makes him a bad player? No, we've seen what he can do as a player. So we know it's there. It's just other people have got to look from the inside, like the outside, and think, do you know what? He ain't a bad player. It's just at the moment he's having a tough time. So how do you get through that? You support the person. You get behind the player. You work harder on the training ground. He's come out of the team for a little bit. I thought he was excellent against Middlesbrough. When he come back in, he was the man of the match against Middlesbrough because that's the player that we know that Harley Dean is. But everyone goes through it. I've been through it. So everyone's got to appreciate that the pressure that everyone's under, the situation the club's in again, where they're in a dogfight, and they're probably not going to admit it, but the club is in a dogfight again. Simple as that. And everyone's got to roll their sleeves up and get on with it. Simple. You can't moan about it. We can't look at it and think any different. It is what it is, and it's the time where you got to dig in and get yourselves through it.
Yeah, it is difficult. Well, moving away from how we've done up to late, a new player that's come in, obviously with your West Bromwich Albion connections. What can you tell us about Raheem Harper?
Yeah, Raheem's he's a good player. I think he's got great potential. Obviously, he's found it tough at West Brom to get in their side and to be involved. And he will add qualities to Birmingham. But again, the player, you've got to use the player to his best qualities. Play him in the right position, get him on the ball because he's very good on the ball. He's strong, he's quick. He can find a pass. He's got great range of pass, and he can create stuff. So, but he's a player that, again, he's only 20. So that pressure, and I know that obviously I've done a few podcasts and it's come up. Everyone's like had a little dig about it, putting pressure on him. Well, everyone's under pressure. You're playing at professional football level. You're under pressure no matter what team you sign for, player. So you can't. My words were is that you can't expect too much from a 20-year-old kid who's coming on loan from West Brom, but we all know what qualities he's got. I see the qualities. I understand what type of player he is, but Birmingham City, it's going to take time for him to get used to everyone, the playing style, what the manager wants from him. But them qualities will come through without a shadow of a doubt, the amount of games he'll play.
I mean, the one thing that always gets thrown around is obviously the words, if you're good enough, you're old enough, which obviously is more relevant as we speak about the 23s and what have you. So, but do you think it's more the pressure that's thrown on them as soon as they step on the pitch that can really has an effect on them and kind of sends them on a downward spiral in a sense? Do you think, like you say, it's more of a case of the fans have got to be more understanding with the players out there, the youngsters, or
the fans expect? Do you know what I mean? When you look at Birmingham, what do the fans expect? The fans expect the players to go out there and give 110%. If they had a bad game, but they still give 110%, the fans respect you because they know, they've seen what you're trying. They understand that sometimes you're not going to have the best of games and things are not going to go how you do it. But it's how do you make the other players around you play to their levels? And that's that leadership that we're talking about. So the leadership. So yeah, but the pressures come from the individual. How much pressure do they put on themselves when they go out on the football pitch? What are their thoughts of planning a certain game? Everyone talks about going to Stoke on like a Tuesday night because it's wet and windy. That's a challenge for people. Or for some players, it's not, because they're going. Their focus is, I'm going to Stoke on Tuesday and I'm beating them. That's my. But when certain players get in their heads that they're thinking, oh, for God's sake, do you know what? Stoke on a Tuesday night, wet and rainy. I don't know if I fancy it. Then that's when you got a problem. That's when, obviously, you're going onto the football pitch and you're not 100% expecting what's coming. And that's where you have to be. You have to be fully focused. You have to be concentrating on your game. Yes, okay, mistakes will happen, but if your performance is 90 to 95% there, then you are going to have a good game. But you're going to bring everyone else's games, the best out of everyone else's games as well, because you're doing certain things that they can't do on the football pitch. So you're helping them. So that's massive mindset. It is. It's definitely a massive mindset with being on, like, playing on that stage, as people call it. You're in the spotlight. Everyone's watching you. Everyone's expected you to. Do you know what? Especially the players that we know that can turn the game and flick a switch on just like that, and it happens for them. So that's where that pressure is extra, because everyone's expecting it to happen every game.
Just talking about mindset, we're back on it. What would you put this home form down to? Was it 3 wins in 12 months, I think it is, or something like that?
Yeah, it's just not good enough, is it? But excuses, I think we're hearing too many excuses. The pitch is not good enough. The fans are not there. Well, the fans have not been there for nearly a year now. So you can't keep making that excuse because it gets boring. Confidence, well, you've got to find a way through it. That's the only thing you can do. You've got to find a way of getting through it. And then once that one result comes, do you know what I mean? It's then just building on it. Obviously, I think the problem is with Birmingham is that it's the first time they've played the same team the other week. Saturday, was it Borough? So Borough Saturday afternoon, and then Tuesday, it's the first time in 26 games they played the same. That's not good enough. But when you're talking about stability and momentum, we've seen it against Bristol City and Reading. They had the 2 great wins away from home and then changed the team. We went to a back 5. You, unless there's injuries or suspensions, keep the same formation. Get the players to understand what formation you're playing. They all know, the ones who are not playing, they all know what's expected of them, because they're all good players. That's why they're at Birmingham City Football Club. Otherwise, you wouldn't have signed them. And they all know what their roles and responsibilities are, but don't change the formation unless you need to. Unless it's flipping, the one that you want is not working, then change it to your plan B with what you've got in the background.
Yeah, I think that's something, like Kieran, I think you agree, mate, is something that's driven us supporters up the wall this season.
We've said, we touched on it on our most recent recording, didn't we, Elliot, about, one of the fans tweeted us and said that, it's the formation that's the problem, and obviously the not knowing his best 11. And like you say, nearly the end of January now, 26 games into the season. He still doesn't even know his best 11, doesn't know his favoured formation. And like you say, it's just not good enough, is it really? And we also said it's, like you say, nearly 12 months without fans there now. We can't keep hearing these excuses. Something's got to change and fast with this home form, because that's what we're going to be relying upon for the coming months to get us out of this battle that we're in at the minute. The home form has to improve. We can't keep relying on away results and performances to get us out of it, because we're going to come unstuck with that. But do you think maybe with how long it's gone on now that there's something more that could be done away from the pitch? Like obviously talking to the players and trying to get through to them about the home form, maybe that could help at all. Maybe getting, like you say, a psychologist or someone to speak to the players and kind of try and get through to them a different way.
It's what the club want. It's what the club see. How they act upon it. I mean, they might do stuff behind the scenes. I don't know. At the training ground, they might be in rooms having meetings about it. They might be talking about it individually in dressing rooms. But at the end of the day, it's characters, isn't it? It's leaders and characters. You can't. They're the ones that need to stand up and be counted. When you cross that white line, the manager and the coaches can't do anything else. Obviously, they do all the work during the week, so leading up to the games. As soon as you cross that white line, it's 11 players. 11 players have got to go out and perform to a level that they know that they've got to win the game at home. Sometimes digging in deep. The goals sometimes have gone in too easy. It's that lack of concentration or the silly mistakes that have cost Blues from the opposition in scoring when really there was no need for that to happen. But it's not just Blues though. It's I've watched so much football now. It's scary and it's happening everywhere in the game, and it scares me. It scares me to think that what do these players do? What's their mentality like? How are they getting coached? What are they being? What's their information? What formation are you playing? I mean, some games I've watched, I haven't got a clue what formation they're playing. That's not Blues, by the way. That's other clubs. I've sat there and I've looked at it and I thought, I actually don't even know what formation you're playing. It just looks like you put a team out there thinking that you're going to win it, and there's no direction, there's no structure. So you're letting your players do whatever you want, and you're wondering why you're losing games. Well, that's why, because there's no structure and there's no plan to the team. Now with Birmingham, we've seen, I mean, the players that they've got there, we've seen what they can do when they beat teams, and they can destroy teams. But it's just been inconsistent with them. And that's been, again, changing formation, personnel, going in all the time, chopping and changing. So there's just been no real momentum really where they've picked up, and you thought to yourself they're going to go on like a 4 or 5 game run here where, hold on a minute, we've got a real good chance here now because we've got some like momentum going and some stability in the team.
I think just quickly, obviously, as supporters, you can accept a side, you can accept losing 1-0 at home or 2-1. But, when we're getting hammered 4-1 and 4-0 at home, especially against a side like Derby, granted they've had an upturn in form, but, that's worrying, in my opinion. There's something more to it than just a couple of mistakes or a lack of concentration here and there. Surely that's got to come down to desire or motivation.
Yeah, it has. And like you say, I watched the Derby game. I watched the highlights of the Middlesbrough game at home. And Derby just did the basics. That's all football is. Basics. Do the basics right, and more than likely you'll win games. Derby were in Birmingham's faces. They were more aggressive. They run in behind, so they caused the defenders more problems. But why are Birmingham not doing that to teams? They've got the players that can do that. You've got Sanchez, you've got Bella, you've got Terrell, you've got Halavalic. But again, obviously he's been in back and forth with injury, so no one's really seen the best of him. But when you do watch him, you can see the qualities of what player he's got. You've got Scotty Hogan. Did they play to Scotty Hogan's strengths? No, because why do you want Scott Hogan on the pitch when you're lumping the ball forward to him? He's not going to win the header. You've got Djukovic, who's sitting on the bench, but when you bring Djuki off, what's Djuki's strengths? Djuki's strengths are inside the 18-yard box, attacking crosses. You don't take the crosses off when you bring Djuki on. You keep the wingers on to supply Djukovic in what he's good at, which is attacking the ball. Again, ball's coming forward then. He's your hold-up play, but then you're getting players linking in and around him. So that's just my observations, though. That's just my opinion on football and what I watch and what I see. And again, the Middlesbrough game, obviously you're seeing Neil Etheridge making basic mistakes. But again, it's pressure. It's concentration. I think what game was it where he blamed? Was it the Derby game where he blamed the lights? He looked at the lights. I mean, the lights are a problem because obviously I had the problem playing with the lights because of how low they were and they were right in your eye line. But you can't make that as an excuse. You do like a 30-minute warm up to get used to what the lights are like. So as soon as the game's going, right, I understand what they're like, so I know. It's just that concentration.
That's just a quick.
It's the mistake. It's the mistake that gets to you, then that puts that more pressure on you, and that's what it is.
Yeah, I think, and this is the thing I found. Like when they make a mistake, I find their heads drop a little bit, and the mistakes just start to flow. And another thing that supporters have pointed out, you might just laugh it off, but the narrowing of the pitch. The narrowing of the pitch was at the start of last season. Pep wanted the pitch narrower. For some reason, I don't know whether it was Dom or above. They felt obviously they wanted to play more passing, attractive football. Is this affecting them, or is it because
if you want to make the passing nice and effective, and you want to make the pitch bigger, not smaller?
That's what I'm saying.
You want to stretch the opposition. Yeah, I think sometimes it's a psychological thing though, because I know other managers that have done that at the other clubs I've been at. They've tried to play to our home advantage of make it uncomfortable for certain, like the bigger teams that are in the division who we know that will play football and will make the pitch big. So it's a psychological thing. It's playing to the opposition's hands as well. So yeah, managers do it. It's a natural thing for superstition. The way that obviously how you understanding the players at home, they understand what we've made the pitch smaller. This is how we want to play. But as long as it's drilled into the players, you understand it. Then you know what you're doing. I don't know. Has the pitch changed? Did they make it bigger again, or has it stayed the same?
Made it narrower, haven't they, Kieran?
Yeah, still same as it was last season under Pep, and narrow pitch at the minute. It's obviously one of the things that's been pointed out is some of the larger pitches where we've been away from home, Bristol City, for example, where we've gone and picked up the points. So people saying obviously a bigger pitch obviously seems to suit us more. Obviously, then when it comes to being at home,
it just varies, fellas. I still don't see it as a big issue because it's at the end of the day, it's 11v11. So that's you want a grass pitch no matter where you go and play, whether it's a bigger pitch, whether it's a smaller pitch. As long as you know what your responsibilities are as a team and as individuals, then it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, it's just another excuse, isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's what it becomes in the end, and you can't make excuses apart from, do you know what? Hold my hands up. I was shit today. I had a bad game. Take it on the chin, and we go on to the next one. But it's so hard as well. It's so hard for players who come out and they want to try and say the right things, but it seems like it's saying the same things all the time. It's difficult because you're under pressure because you're in front of a camera. You're being put on the spot with questions that are coming at you, and you're trying to explain it in a way of like just trying to explain it in a way of how it might seem for a fan to relate to, or how that player's feeling in his head.
One of the questions we were sent in on Twitter to ask you, which is quite relevant, obviously talking about the home form and the mood in the camp at the minute, so to speak, is someone said when Gary Rowett came in, how did he uplift the mood in the dressing room, and how did he impact the squad to bring around that turnaround in fortunes?
Yeah, so well, obviously when Gary came in, we'd just been battered 8-0 by Bournemouth. So when he come in, well drilled, he straight away drilled us back four. Right, this is what I want. This is what I want my back four to do. So it was all the defenders, not just the back four. It was every single defender. We went on the pitch with Gary, and he drilled into us our movements, our positioning as a back four, like our distances, and we worked on it, and we kept doing it. Even in training, when we went together, it was that cohesion in units of working with your fullback. So if I was centre half, I was working with my left fullback. I was working with my right-sided centre half. Right-sided centre half was working with his fullback, right fullback in, just getting our distances right. So Gary well drilled us. He understood He knew structure. This is how I want the team to play. People might not like it, but if we get results, it's a results business. That's what it's about. So you're playing ugly sometimes for us was the way that we loved it. We loved playing ugly because we knew that we'd outwit teams. We knew we'd outrun teams. We knew that we'd get 3 points just because of the way that we were well drilled in what we needed to do. So yeah, the performance away at Wolves was obviously his first game in charge. We went there 0-0, but the fans would have seen, oh my God, from last week, 8-0 being battered by Bournemouth to 0-0 away to Wolves, like pushing for promotion, is a massive improvement.
Yeah, I think I remember that 0-0 Wolves. I was quite surprised because didn't you play wing back?
No, I played left side centre half with Moro because Moro come in. Yeah, so Moro come in. Obviously, Groundsy was left back. Right back was Caddy. Caddy was in at right back. But yeah, but we all knew Gary knew our players. Management skills was fantastic. He understood each and every individual and his philosophy. So this is my philosophy. You either buy into it, you don't buy into it. If you don't buy into it, you won't be here. You're not a Birmingham City football player.
I think that's something like a message that kind of needs to get put across with whoever comes through the door at the minute. I think Karanka's kind of struggling to get the right player through the door.
You can't get rid of Karanka. How can the club go back on now with what they've done to get him in place? How can they now, after so long, all of a sudden say we had a 3-year plan, but we've given it 6 months and it's not working? Again, it's money. You're losing money again, and it's like a rotational door for managers, and the money lost by the club. It's just needs to stop happening. If Karanka's the manager, then he's got to be the manager for his 3-year contract. Simple as that. That's the way clubs should be looking at it. And it's not. And again, it's football, lads. Like we're seeing it. The Watford manager. I mean, my old club Watford with their coach, he got 3 months. Literally 3 months. What sort of stability is that? It's just there's no stability. But if you do your homework and you understand, right, I'm bringing this manager in because 1, he's going to connect with the fans. 2, he's going to get the players on side. And 3, we're going to start winning games. It's not always about a name. Why these clubs go for names, I don't understand. It's about a connection with people and being together as one. No one influences. No one's bigger than Birmingham City Football Club. There should be no one at Birmingham City Football Club who thinks they're bigger than the club, because they're not. You're the manager, that's your job. You're the players, that's your job. You do your job. I'm the manager, I do my job. The people behind the scenes, you do your jobs. That's it. End of story.
I think that's why Rowett was done so well with us as well. Is like you say, he played for the club as well. He knew what the fans expected from the players from the off. So the second he walked through the door, he knew from the back of his hand what was needed at that club in the position he was in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. He knew Birmingham, and all of his staff knew Birmingham City Football Club. They all played for the club as well. So they all knew what they were getting into, and they all knew what they were coming to. And that was the great thing about it, is that he connected everyone together.
One thing as well, we'll just finish on this finally as well, just to mention, obviously it looks like Tifton Bell's on his way to join Rowett at Millwall. Player you played alongside, what is your opinions on that, and what looks to be a bit of a reshuffle in the middle for Karanka?
I think he's a massive loss for Birmingham because of the player that I know and I understand, and the person that he is as well, and what he's prepared to do for the football club. But Keith needs to move on. He had a big knee injury. He'd been told that he wasn't getting another contract. I think he'd spoken about that openly, which I read, saying that he wasn't being offered a contract. So it's time for Keith to move on, and players do. Players have to move on. Players have to go and experience different challenges in their careers. But the one thing that we all love about Keith is that he gave his all. Whenever he put his shot on for Birmingham City Football Club, he gave 110%. He was one of those players, and some people might see it as, well, yeah, but he wasn't very good on the ball. He wasn't, but who cares? He was a Birmingham City Football Club. He ran for a brick wall for his teammates, for the football club, for the fans. he understood what it was about to play for the club. So yeah, I think he will be a massive loss to the football club just because of the person that he is and the player that he is. And they're hard players to replace. They're very hard players to replace. They are. Raheem's obviously someone that they've obviously looked to bring in to do with that in that position, but he's on loan. He's not a signing, so he's got 3 months to prove to Birmingham City fans what he's all about, which I have no doubt that he will, because of the qualities that he has. But you can't compare him to someone like Keith because we're all different we're all different people. We're all different players. But yeah, Keith, I love him to bits. He's a great guy, and he'll be a big loss for Birmingham, but be a great signing for Millwall.
I think we all speak for every Birmingham fan and say that we appreciate everything he's done. He's going to be sorely missed.
Yeah, but even Dave Davis as well. Dave Davis was the same. Dave Davis is someone who's been there for 6.5 years, and he's probably wasted the last year and his half of his time at the club not being involved. He went on loan to Tilton, didn't quite work out for him. Obviously, COVID kicked in, so difficult times. He just had a newborn, felt that he needed to protect his child, and do you know what? Fair play to him, because people do. People don't know what this disease is like. People don't understand, like, when you got a newborn and what they have health reasons that you don't want to bring home with the people that you're working with on a day-to-day basis. So Davo had to move on, and he's gone to Shrewsbury now to find his feet, enjoy his game again, and get the love back for football. But there's so many other players out there that need to do that. Yeah, they're great servants for Birmingham City Football Club, and we'll remember, like, what people won't forget is that the great memories that they brought to the team, and them two players definitely brought that for Birmingham City Football Club. But now they've moved on, and Keith hasn't yet, but it looks like he's going to. So the people will always remember the players that give their all for Birmingham City Football Club, and them two are definitely up there.
Yeah, definitely. And finally, do you think Karanka will eventually get it right at the club, finally turn around the fortunes?
I really hope so. I really hope so, fellas, because it just can't keep happening. The rotational door of managers coming in and out, the change of players again, where it's money. It's just money all the time, wasted money. There needs to be stability at the football club now, and Karanka has to stay. He signed a 3-year deal. Unless it's his decision that he wants to leave, then that's his decision. But the club have to back him. They have to keep backing him, unless it gets to a point where, like a Gianfranco, like a Steve Cottrell, where they can't take anymore and they've got to part ways. But the next person, it has to be someone that understands Birmingham City Football Club and gets what the club's all about, and the players that he needs to bring in are Birmingham City football players, and not just coming to Birmingham City Football Club to the club to pick up a nice little wage to finish off their careers.
Would you fancy the job?
I'd love the job. I'd love the job, but it'd be difficult for me to go back at this moment in time. But I'd love to have helped work with the first team, because I played with most of them. I know that the kids would have come through, so I would have worked with them. I would have developed them even more to understand what it was like. But it's football. Yeah, unfortunately, I had to move on. I had to get out. There was no pathway for me, and the club didn't see it. So I needed to have a break from the game and get out of the place, just to switch off for a bit and spend some quality time with the family. And that's just me being open and honest, fellas. It was too negative environment for me, and I couldn't deal with it anymore, and I couldn't see my family suffer. Simple as that. But if Birmingham called me and they apologised, then we'll see.
Well, I think me and Elliot both speak again for most of the fans, if not all of us, when we say, obviously, your departure was a shock for a start off. I think you'd be a brilliant person to have in it, especially right now, as we spoke about your mum and Sen being in around that first team, being able to pick these players up, it'd be invaluable at the minute.
I think that's what they need. They don't need rocket. They don't need a rocket up their arse. They're good players, lads. I've played with some of them. I know what they're like. They need encouraging. They need coaching. They need like an arm around their shoulder sometimes. Yeah, they need the odd G up every now and then, but it's it's done in a way of like not an aggressive manner, but it's a well respected manner, because you know that they're good players, but they're going to go through times where they make mistakes and they're losing confidence. But it's about being that shoulder for them and helping them get through that difficult time. That's what it's all about.
I won't take up too much more of your time, but thanks again for joining us on this episode. It's been great to find out about your new venture as well.
Yeah, no worries, lads. Thank you.
So
yeah, really appreciate it.
These episodes will be going out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and YouTube every week. You can follow us on Twitter at BCFC Media and on Instagram as well. Until then, thanks for watching. We'll speak to you soon.